All right, all right, all right. Listen, we look, yo guys. Our brother Ronald Smith is not here tonight, so you all keep him in prayer, Lord. He has some other obligations on tonight, but listen, we're gonna stroll on because y'all know when he's here, he's the tech guy. So y'all have to pray for me in the show tonight because I'm not the tech guy. So, but y'all, like the old saints say, y'all pray my strength in the Lord. Hallelujah. But anyway, look, I am glad for those of y'all. I want to welcome you all to Critical Dialogue. Thank y'all, man. Y'all are already rolling in. Look at Kente. Kente, we appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for showing up today. He says, y'all should have had me on this one. Hey, I hear you, bro. Look, we probably can get you on. We can send you the link and come on, man. So, hey, stop in the silence. What's going on, sis? We appreciate you. Thank you so much. We are definitely looking forward to tonight. There go my brother. We got Chris White, who y'all have been seeing here with rolling with Ron and myself. And we also have, listen, someone who I have a tad bit of history with, none other than Doug Williams, man. So listen, we want to welcome him on the platform. Privilege and honor to have him, you know what I'm saying? But before we do, look, go and share with your friends and your family members. Critical Dialogue is on tonight, and we are going to be discussing, yes, that topic, Christians, politics, Trump. We've heard a project 2025 in this election. So a lot is going on. A lot is happening. So listen, we're going to get right into it. So look, before we do, we want you to share this. Tell people, look, come on. And don't forget, we welcome your comments. We welcome your questions. Not only that, definitely got to get a shout out to my wife who just gave us a greeting. So shout out to my wife. Actually, that's her right there. And Kente said Gremlins on. I got you. Yes, sir. So look, without further ado, we are here. Y'all know what we're here to talk about tonight. Thank y'all. Look, the numbers are already going up. People come on. We figured they would be excited about the topic. But look, before what I want to do is I'm going to let these gentlemen introduce themselves before we give a little introductory hype speech, and then we're going to get right into it. So first and foremost, we have Doug Williams. And look, I'm gonna tell you all about this guy, man. It's a privilege to have him on for a couple different reasons. For one, he is eligible to not only speak on the topic tonight because I like people like him because they don't just come with emotional fluff. They come with information. They try to look at it and be, objective as they possibly can. You know, he's not someone that worships anyone either way, but he looks at what's really happening. He acknowledges what's really happening. And then he speaks, you know what I'm saying, not only from experience, but, he gives his takes on things. He researches things. Not only that, but also from the standpoint, y'all don't know him, don't know that he has a whole lot of experience with media and news. This guy knows how news happens, how it works, how what you all end up seeing that y'all think is the gospel truth on all of these networks. He knows how stories and stuff get picked. He had been a part of that. So listen, I'm telling you all, it's an honor to have him on the platform today. So let's give a shout out to Doug Williams. Doug, could you please take a moment, introduce yourself, and greet the people, please, sir?
Well, it's good to be here. I don't know that I can say much after that intro. That's a lot to live up to. But I am blessed to have been in media for over 30 years. And then maybe when we got into the 2010s to really involve myself in politics on a level where I sat on some commissions, worked with some candidates, the state Supreme Court candidates, also out in Colorado, a few of them running and all of that. So I've been able to kind of be behind the scenes a little bit and, if you will, kind of see what happens in the room from time to time. Have a definite conservative leaning. But as you know, right now, there's a time where I don't think either party are holding to what we call their traditional founding. So just looking forward to having a conversation where we kind of hit the issues and some facts and lay out everything for everybody.
Amen. Amen. You already got some people saying, hey, Doug, we got the Terrys, Derek Terry, David Terry, Tamara Terry. What's going on? What's going on, sister? India, she's in the house. You know, good to see you all. And India says, so he knows about propaganda. Come on now. Hey, Doug, look, speak to that just a little bit. See, speak to that, sir.
Well, I think what Crawley's kind of getting at is the idea that we were talking about how news is done. So, for example, there was a station I worked at. Would come in at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning when we're deciding what stories would run, what would be news for a particular market. And I was explaining that normally on the news, it is made up of about 6 to 8 stories that they repeat in a local feature. And maybe 1 or 2 stories comes down from national. But out of those 6 to 8 stories that we get and run with and the slant on them, normally Reuters, AP, where the stations get their news, will do anywhere from 8 to about 16,000 stories a day. So we're sitting with 6 or 7 stories a day, watching the news and running with the idea that we've been informed. And actually, we've been misinformed, but that's part of the information. So I always say that we shouldn't take what they feed us. We should go get our own meal. And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Right. Amen. Amen to that. Listen, we also have, Chris, I'm going to get to you last because we have another gentleman on here that I'm not familiar with, but he's graced the platform tonight. He comes recommended. So listen, Mr. Shepard, thank you so much. Welcome to Critical Dialogue. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight, man. Could you please take a moment, introduce yourself and greet the people on the platform?
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm a friend of Chris. Been knowing him for a long time, many years. I'm a church plant practitioner, live in Kinston. I co-chair a faith-based initiative called the Gate of Lenoir County. I'm on the board of North Carolina Department of Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. I watched you guys last week, man. Last week had me on edge. And I was
really?
commenting, and I was like, they can't see my comments because I stumbled on it on Facebook. And so I was telling Chris, man, let me in. Because it was good. Y'all was so on point, man. And it was so refreshing.
Wow. Amen.
To hear perspective of sound biblical brothers who are just sound in the faith and sound and know what they're talking about. That was so refreshing, especially here in Eastern North Carolina. So I salute you guys. And Chris reached out and invited me on tonight. And I'm here. I'm a conservative guy. I have conservative principles, but I don't adhere to either party. I think for myself. And, I have my own perspectives. But this is going to be interesting. This one is a little different. This is going to be
it seems like as time go on, everything gets a little more different, right?
Everything is different. I'm basically independent, but this one here,
gotcha.
It's different, brother.
Well, man, we appreciate you being on with us now. And I guess you know what, you reminded me because Doug went ahead and did that and you did that. So let me state where I am, I guess, in the matter of I'm not a Republican or Democrat. I am, though. That doesn't mean I don't take a side because I am anti-Democrat. And I'll explain the reason why as we get further into the conversation. But I'm not what they call brand loyal to either. Outside of that, I am brand loyal to the truth. You know what I'm saying? And so with that said, and everybody would say that they are, but there's some reasons why there's layers to that. But before we go on, man, let me get my brother Chris White in, man, who have definitely been a good part of a great add-on to Ron and myself, man. The show is what it is now because he came on in, man. And so it's just a pleasure seeing him, week in and week out. Chris White, what you got for us, buddy?
Hey, how y'all doing? First of all, I want to say welcome to Brother Doug Williams and my brother Kayam. And pleasure to meet you, Mr. Williams. And me and Kayam been doing work and trying to save our youth together for quite a long time. So
Gotcha.
So good brother right there. I guess I'll follow the pattern. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. Some Republicans might think I'm a Democrat, and some Democrats might think I'm a Republican because I basically I move according to the issues. I wouldn't say that I'm anti-Republican. I voted Republican before, you know what I'm saying, twice. And I wouldn't say I'm anti-Democrat. It's things that the Republicans do that I don't agree with, and it's things that the Democrats do that I don't agree with. But I will say I'm anti-Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? 215 million%.
That's a big percentage.
Yeah. I mean, if I could add some more to it, I would. And when we talk about the being Democrat or Republican, it's hard because how can I say this? The Republican Party is no longer the Republican Party. That's how I view it. The Republican Party today is not the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan. It's not the Republican Party of George W. Bush, and it's definitely not the Republican Party of Senator McCain. And that is part of my problem with the party, is because they seem to have fallen into idol worship to the point where they don't stand on anything, and I can't follow anybody who won't make a stand. And one thing that I hate about Trump is he lies about everything. And so how can you follow someone who you never know what their word means? Even with the selection of his vice president, presidential candidate, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance said some awful things about Donald Trump that were awfully true, but once he was selected as his co-running mate, he just totally flipped and said, "Nah, I didn't mean all that stuff. Everything Donald Trump said was right." I've listened to I almost vomited, but I watched the whole Republican
convention.
The convention. I watched the convention. I listened to Trump's speech. I listened to J.D. Vance's speech. I've listened to what a lot of people say. I watch. I read. I watch what people say, and then I do my research. To see if what they're saying is what they really mean. And
Gotcha.
And you can't get and then we got to get into this whole Project 2025 mess. And,
we're gonna get into that in a minute.
I'm gonna pass it on.
Okay. So before we go on any further, too, I just want to let you all know that here, one of the goals that we have in Critical Dialogue is the beauty of exemplifying conversation. Now, anybody there may be a lot of new listeners or watchers or people watching this week simply because of the topic, and that's fine and it's good. But we make no mistake. We make no we have no shame at all about understanding that this is a Christian-based show. We have a Christian worldview. And so because of that, we center our conversation around that, and we lean more towards a biblical worldview with Christianity, where the only way to God is through Jesus Christ. And so for those of you all who just may be tuning in, man, here's the thing that, guys, there's been a sickness going around, and the more time go on, the more we call this type of thing wisdom. And what is that I'm talking about? It is the avoidance of conflict at all costs.
Yeah.
Jesus didn't do that. Paul didn't do that. None of their followers did that. But somehow we are doing it and calling it biblical wisdom. Now, the Bible lets us know, we know there's scriptures in the Bible, like we want to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. You know what I'm saying? Then there's also scriptures like, that we know that we don't want to cast our pearls upon swine. And all of that can be true while understanding that there are times where we definitely need to at least engage and interact with one another, even if the world don't understand us. Because you know what? I don't have too much of a problem if a sinner disagrees with me, but when a saint does, it raises my level of interest a little more, that they at least want to engage and interact. Why? Because I'm at a fork in the road. Either they're wrong, I'm wrong, or we both wrong. And that's only if it's on black and white issues. There are some issues that are left up to, and like the Bible says in Romans chapter 14, it's just left up to the person. And normally we don't spend a lot of time talking about what are hills to die on and what are not, which we should. But with all of that said, you know what this sickness is causing? It is causing us to now not be at a posture, generically speaking, as a whole, where iron can sharpen iron. Mm-hmm. And here's one thing about iron sharpening iron that we got to realize. There's no way iron can sharpen iron unless it touches, it rubs, there's friction, which causes sparks to fly. But you know what's the good thing about sparks? Sparks don't mean bad. You guys are just like myself. Now I know you may not could believe it, but there was one time when I did have hair, yeah. And I did used to go to a barbershop. You know, yeah. What I'm saying? And so, but you know what? I hurt when I see people who are sinners who don't have Holy Spirit know how to disagree and have conversations, but at the end of the day, don't let it reflect their relationship with one another. Barbershop talk, man, it could get really animated, but the thing about it is they understand. I've been on basketball court with mostly sinners for years, and they could get at one another's case even if they're on the same team, but it's all for the goal of the game, and they know the moment they step off that court. And guess what? If sinners can do that, how much more could we in the spirit of Christ do that? Because now we've assumed the spirit of the world and of America, which says we are really not a melting pot, but the way we appear to be one is avoiding hard conversations altogether. And I'm here to tell you that doesn't fix anything. That enables the bad things. So with all that said, man, we just pray that we're not experts at putting on shows. I'm not an expert interviewer, anything like that. But we just decided, look, let's put some Christians on and let's just talk about the topic. So here it is tonight. We're talking about Christians and politics. So now with that said, let's just start off with here. So Doug, we're going to give you a chance to just not only, just start off with what you say and just kind of, respond with what you've heard so far since you've gone first. And then from there, guys, Brother Shepherd, Brother White, we can just kind of hop in and play on that. But what you heard thus far, Doug, we got a lot of people saying things have changed. There was time historically where, now black people are expected to vote Democrat as a whole, even though those numbers seem to be changing a little bit. But sure. About 50, 60 years ago, most blacks were Republicans. And we hear Chris say that, hey, things have changed. And here's what it is true. That's changed on both sides. So with all of that said, what comes to mind? What are some things that you like to see in this year?
Well, the first thing is kind of looking down from a 30,000 foot view. And what you just said, the problem right now that we're having in politics is, you speak of being on the basketball court, guys might go at it, but at the end of it, they walk off the court and they're cool. We don't do that in politics anymore. And the reason we don't do that in politics anymore is in politics, for the most part, we've made it personal. So in a debate, they're not talking about the issues nearly as much as telling you what this person did or what that person did. And, even though I'm a conservative, I'm not a Trump fan either, Chris. But, one of the things he made famous was the personal attack. But that began happening, I'll say, a lot stronger starting around 2000. And so politics is now drifted to the area where I can spend a good amount of time and a good amount of advertising revenue on just attacking somebody's person, even to the point where we have guys now talking about each other's family. So that sounds hood. That sounds like Kendrick and Drake in a battle. We're talking about people's families. We're talking about those things and never dealing with the issues. So as Christians, I think it's real important that we begin to say, hey, these are the 4 or 5 things that are most important to me. And then we look at the candidate, despite the letter in front of their name, the D or the R, and see who aligns with that. because what I feel like, right now, if we're talking about Christians and we're talking about the Black community, in my opinion, the Black community a lot of times gives the same behavior on the side with a D a pass, and I don't think that's right. So not to
It
go
ain't right.
after.
It ain't right.
Yeah. So when we just talked about, I witnessed the primaries and saw guys who were very, very much at odds with Trump. Once he gets the nomination, starts talking kind to them, they become his friends. They come and kiss his ring. You know what I mean? That's a problem. And it makes it where I do not want to follow you as a leader. But then I flip the switch and I look at Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, where she calls him out about his stand on integration of schools and busing. And that whole thing goes viral about how he said his kids would be in a racial jungle if you allowed integration. But later on, we'll come back and we say, that's cool for her to be with him. And now this past weekend to say, I love you, Joe. So it goes on both sides. And I think if we're really in love with the truth, then we need to hold both parts accountable. And I'll say this final thing, turn it over to whoever wants to take it. So what I believe we need to do as Christians first, because the skin of my color is not going to get me into heaven. And what I'm on right now here is a test run to see about eternal life. So I think we need to make sure that we hold to our biblical standards. If I'm a Democrat, then I can say, hey, I am a Democrat. I love A, B, C, and D that we do. But there's nothing wrong with standing up and saying, hey, this whole trans thing, these whole things that happen, I'm not with that. And speaking out against Democrats that do that. But we have pastors and singers from the pulpit saying, we like that now. And on the Republican side, we can say, hey, listen, what you're talking about doing with defense, what you're talking about doing with the border, I love. But this attitude, this idea that cops were never wrong, such and such, I don't go for that. But right now we have this whole thing where if I'm a Republican, if I'm a Democrat, we're agreeing with every piece of opinion that they put out. That's a problem for the kingdom and for African Americans.
And that's where a lot of, and Christian, and y'all can get in too on this, because what you raised, Doug, is good. What's going on, Duke? What you raise is good from this standpoint, because that's where a lot of the dangerous energy come up with the maligning, with the everybody. If you vote this, you must love this. You must be this type of worshiper. If you do this, and it's like, and that's what we need to do. We need to have more conversations to understand where and why each other is coming from. Because when I hear blanket statements from both sides, that automatically tell me either you're not taking time to get to understand their reasoning behind it before you make blanket foolish statements like that. And then not only that, here's one thing that we do need to call out that is true, especially for Black people, but we know everybody. But being that most of our audience is Black, let's talk about Black issues and our hypocrisy. Because not only in politics, we see it with our Black celebrities.
Amen.
Right.
We don't mind giving our Black celebrities passes that we don't give other folks who don't look like us passes. But as long as they Black can make money because we feel we share in that, because we have been done wrong in the past and we're getting an unfalse start. We get that part. But we as Black people have to be able to call out our hypocrisy too. Because when I hear things like, we talk about politics and like, Trump is a liar, he's this, he's that, and he's the Antichrist. Well, I'm like, well, first of all, it's kind of laughable if you really understand biblically what the Antichrist is and what he's not. But for everything that you want to mark off your checklist that you have about Trump, we're preaching as if Kamala and Biden were like just on the front row with Jesus or something. And I'm like, wait a minute. And so that's why I like when we can get to the place where we be like, look, Doc, I'm counting out, because I had a conversation with a family member, and not too long ago. And I just simply asked, I said, with what you talking, and I said, I understand and I agree with that. I said, but is there anything good that the people on the other side that you don't like have done? Could you at least acknowledge either any good at any time that they had put a policy in or whatever the case may be? You know what I'm saying? Because to be honest, you lose me when the most you could say is Trump's a racist. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's all we got to go with, I'm just saying, I think you are narrowing not only where you're getting your news from and stuff, and that. I'm like, we got to go a little deeper to that before we really have a serious conversation. But anyway, what you guys say, man? Anybody, man, get in on it.
I kind of align with a lot of what Chris said. My views, like I said, are conservative, but at the same time, with the issues, there are some things on a conservative part that I rock with, and there's some things that on the the liberal aspect of things that I rock with. Jesus told the Pharisees, he said, yeah, y'all doing it. I'm paraphrasing, y'all doing all the right stuff. Y'all tithing, y'all handling that well, but you neglect the weightier matters of the law. You know, justice and mercy. You're neglecting that. And so when I look at one side of the aisle, they neglect justice and mercy. But then on the other side, I don't stand with abortion. And that's from my personal conviction. And so I tell people, whatever your convictions is, stand by your convictions, but always be ready to have the hard conversations. And if you stand with one side, be willing to voice, to give language to why you believe or why you support what you support. And what I'm finding is a lot of us don't have any language to give other than Trump's a racist. They hate black people. Republicans hate black people. And okay, give me some examples. You know what I mean? So I'm like, Chris, I wouldn't vote for Trump. I think he's horrible. I don't think he's a good businessman. I don't see where he's that great a businessman. He's a horrible leader. But some of the issues, like I like his criminal justice reform, right? I don't like anybody who goes against the veterans because I'm a veteran. I don't like anybody who attacks Social Security or Medicare because our seniors need what they need. I don't like anybody that attacks things that the children need. You know, I'm talking about basic necessities that the children need. But so a lot of that stuff, people are not thinking for themselves. People, it's a lot of groupthink going on.
There's
like,
too much groupthink. You can say that again now.
Yeah, it's too much.
There's too much groupthink going on.
It was a time.
It's laughable.
I remember when I first.
It's laughable when people think that they just so intelligent and they think different. When it's like, bro, all your thoughts are really groupthink. But go ahead and finish, and then we'll go to and then real quick, I'm gonna let us greet Duke White, and then we're going to continue. So yeah, could you go ahead and finish with your thoughts, sir, and then we're going to let group.
Do you guys remember a time where me and them used to tell us, okay, when I first started voting, you got to vote a straight Democratic ticket. We didn't discuss issues. We didn't know about issues. We were just told you vote a straight Democratic ticket. But those days are over now. We got to research, what did the candidate stand for? And the last thing I'm going to say in this conversation tonight, we got to visit Agenda 47 as well.
Right.
Yeah, that was brought up actually in the back room before we was coming on. So we want to let you guys out there. Real quick, Duke, can you, man, greet the people, man, and give us a little shout out real quick, man, before we move on.
Blessings. I'm Pastor Duke, and just happy to be on the show. And, you know, this topic is very dear to my heart because of the fact that I've been paying attention to politics since I was actually a kid, because the one thing that I knew about the kingdom of God and the word of God is I noticed that God's people always had access to the government. All the prophets, if you look, every single prophet had access to the government. So when I look at vets, I'm a vet myself. When I look at veterans, when I look at a lot of who our pastors are, a lot of pastors are ex-vets and things like that. And when the tone changed, there used to be a time that nothing politically got done. The politicians had to connect to the churches. Okay, they had to connect to the churches, to whether they're Democrat or Republican, to get anything done. They needed the approval of the churches. Then somewhere along the line, when the churches kind of stopped doing their job, the politicians were able to just divide everybody. You know, but there was a time where politicians respected the church. And I believe that a lot of this division that we're seeing right now is because Democrats and Republicans were never anointed by God to do what they're called to do. The church is set back for a long time, letting the government fight over who's supposed to do its job.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And I got, and so as we move on to a couple comments, thank y'all so much for commenting. We got, yeah, that's right. Mary Gosley, thank you for watching. She said it's more than that. And Kente said that's enough not to vote for them. So let me respond to a couple things, because there's also a couple things that I'm seeing here that seems like it goes with the, I guess. So if here's one thing that's going to be good about any principle that's a true principle or that's a true moral issue, it's got to be able to work both ways. If not, it's not a good principle or law. You see what I'm saying? And so because of that, we have to ask ourselves. So when my sister, when Goldie was like, no, but Trump is outright evil, why do we say that? Is if Kamala, excuse me from the start, and Biden aren't? Because, you know, I'm gonna be honest. Well, 8 years ago, a couple of years ago, I got down and I got heavy because I'm like, is this the best America can come up with on both sides? Like, you mean to tell me this is all we got to pick from? So I haven't been a fan of any one of the delegates for the last couple of elections, including Trump. I don't fool with him. He's insightful for a lot of various reasons. A lot of wrong things that we can say about Trump. But when we say his outright evil, to say that, will we not also say the same? Because I'm looking like I can almost see the horns coming out of Sis Harris and Biden's ears, especially when, get this, to me, and not only to me, it's a fact. The elections are bigger than the faces that's on them.
Yeah.
Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, do you know that their agenda precedes them? It's going to go before them. It has been here before them, and it's going to be here after they are in office. So the thing about it is that when we look at people like that, now we got to ask ourselves, whichever agenda that I'm pushing, because I like someone brought up the word truth, and I truly do believe some of us are sound depending on the subject topic. Then we get cloudy. But I believe if we all are sound in judgment and stuff like that, and the Holy Spirit on black and white issues, I think we can definitely come to a general consensus and at least admit what is factual. And here's one thing that is factual. If we start with the fact that if you go beyond Trump and deal with the Republican agenda, and you go beyond Kamala and deal with the Democratic agenda, here's one thing that you do understand. All of them still have traditional mainline views that, whether they truly do believe it or not, that's the face that they have to portray, given that they own red or blue side. And so I deal with it from a generic standpoint. This is why I'm not lost in the whole Trumpism, the whole Trump worship, and I'm not lost in the hate of the person, because I understand what is the general agenda and what it has been doing to me as a black man and as a Christian person, which is my fuel for saying, listen, the agenda that I help, the agenda that I support is going to be here long after you all want to call Trump the Antichrist. Okay, let's just give you that. Let's just say he's the Antichrist that the Bible talks about. Even if he is, guess what? The agenda of the Republican Party will be there after he has gone, and it will be there, and it was there before he came. And it's the same for the Democratic Party. And so I see it from a general standpoint that, listen, could we at least not all say this? And I would like y'all, could we at least not all say, or do we not all know? The Bible speaks about the sons of Issachar, those who are able to discern the times. Do we not all realize that the libertine mindset and liberality not only is a threat, it is the biggest threat to Christian freedom, and it is also statistically, if we even take our feelings out of it, this is a fact. It is also the agenda that diminishes the physical attending numbers of black people and male in general. Mm-hmm. That's something that can't be denied when you look at it on that side of the agenda. And so the reason why I'm anti that is because I know even if I got a fool in the office, when that fool leaves, the agenda still remains. So I don't look at it from a personal standpoint, even though that's some things that has to be considered. But I'm still looking, is the person that's in the office of the Republican office or in the Democratic parties, are they strong enough to change fundamental democratic views? If not, I'm still going to judge it as a whole. But to that, you all say.
Okay. Couple of things, man. It's a lot that I want to touch on. First of all, when it comes to the Trump versus Kamala and Joe Biden thing, I think that's a false equivalent. You know, you cannot put them in the same basket and say one is just as bad as the other, because Trump has done so much that he in my opinion, he is the absolute worst president in history, the worst candidate in history, and he's ineligible. He's not qualified. He's disqualified to even run for office. The fact that we're even having this conversation about him is beyond me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not just saying that like I'm not a person who's just I just hate him because of the red hat or whatever. I hate what he stands for. I hate the things that he's done. When people call,
Can I ask you a question?
let me finish. Yeah, let me finish.
Just in what you said you hate what he's done.
Yeah.
And so specifically, what has he done that you hate?
Okay, I'm good. I mean, it's a lot that I did, but okay. I'm gonna just do one thing, but like I said, it's a whole lot to unpack. But I'm gonna get back to your question. But number one, when you say that he's a racist, he has a history of that. I mean, it's well documented. You could go all the way back to even when he was putting out things in the paper about the Central Park Five. You know what I'm saying that they need to get the death penalty. You know what I'm saying, so on and so forth. He's a liar. He lies every time he opens his mouth, pretty much. He definitely stretches. He calls himself the law and order president, but he's broken more laws than anybody I ever seen try to run for president. He has 34 felonies, you know, and not just that. He's been basically I don't know how you want to say this, but accused of rape and was basically found guilty, but paid his way out of it. You know, these are some of the things you can't equate Kamala and Joe to. And beyond all of that, he's an enemy of the United States. He is the leader of domestic terrorism. They attacked the Capitol with all of our leadership in it. He is the only president to ever leave office and not just, hey, you whoop me, you know what I'm saying? Let me pass this on, you know what I'm saying, so that the country is in a good place. You know what I'm saying? It's just like if I play basketball with somebody one-on-one, when we both play as hard as we can, and you hit a shot on me at the buzzer and you win the money, you get the trophy or whatever. But because I lose, I want to go to the car and get my gun and start shooting people. You know what I'm saying? Like that is that's what people are talking about is pure evil. You don't care about the country, and you're not the only person in the world who can do the job. That's part of the reason why I have such a problem with a lot of the Republican Party, is because it's like, you mean to tell me there's not one decent, you know what I'm saying, law-abiding Republican in the whole United States of America that y'all can put up to be your guy? Okay, you want to, yeah, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I want to give you the chance to answer Doug's question. While you answered, I guess to kind of re-sum up his question, and I kind of add to Doug's question. Before we lead to you and we get to Duke, I want you to answer what Doug asked. And I'm going to kind of attach something to Doug's question by saying this. Yeah. If he's racist, and here's the thing about Trump. We've had a 4-year sample size already. So when we vote for people, we also vote for their policies. Where has racism showed up in his policy?
Project 2025.
And so,
but that's not him.
2025 ain't his policy.
That is him.
We can't use that yet, Chris.
No. He can't use that.
That's not true, sir.
Let me just say something on Project 25.
Go ahead, Chris. Answer the question.
Let me say something on Project 25 real quick.
Go ahead.
This one has gotten the media attention. Heritage Foundation has done a project like this since 1981. Every year they put out this whole idea of here's what the next group's going to do. This one caught everybody's attention because it was attached to Trump. Trump publicly said, it's not me. What they said was people that worked for you did it, or people who used to be with you helped write it. But when the UN put out their thing on population control, Democrats that were in government helped write it. We didn't say that this was the Democratic policy.
Yep.
And then Trump has come out, and whether you like Agenda 47 or not, and I don't care for the grab for executive power in either of them. But to ascribe to somebody something 922 pages that nobody has read, everybody's taking opinions based on third party, and say, is this man's? And I don't like him. To say is this man's is wrong. So if the five of us here got together and wrote something and said, we think this is what we want Chris to do when he's elected, and you can't say that that's yours. It's what they wrote, and they've been doing it for 30 years, for 40 years.
I see what you're saying, but I think honestly, you know what I'm saying? I think that's very naive approach.
Why is it naive?
Because the thing is, like I said, is y'all trying to say it ain't his. The thing is, it's all the things are set up. Even if you look at what's going on with the Supreme Court, they made it so that you give the president of the United States basically full immunity. You could commit any crime you want, but because you're the president, you're immune. They did not create that for Biden, because everybody knows Biden ain't out here saying that I can shoot somebody down in the street and get away with it. But Trump has shown that propensity. Trump was the one who told them to come, you know what I'm saying, to Washington, D.C. and fight like H, or you're not going to have a country. He was the one who led an insurrection. You know what I'm saying? And the whole
Chris, but how do you tie that to but how do you tie that to making Project 2025?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, but what I'm saying is
that's not true.
What I'm saying is y'all can say because he's not the president right now, that wasn't created for him. That was created for him because they stacked the Supreme Court in his favor. They blocked some of the people that Obama wanted to get put in place on the Supreme Court. They stacked it with a bunch of people, some of them already bought off, to do their bidding. And now you have an unbalanced Supreme Court that's going to do whatever he want to do. If we had a real fair Supreme Court, we wouldn't even be dealing with Trump right now, because he wouldn't be qualified. But you've given this man complete immunity. And if you look at what the Supreme Court has done, and you think that was not done for Trump, I don't know what you're reading or what you're looking at.
Here's why that's not true. What you said is not true, Chris. And let me tell you why. Because here's what's a fact. Do we realize the foundation that came up with 2025?
The Heritage Foundation.
The Heritage Foundation.
Heritage Foundation. Do we realize that was written for whoever would have been the Republican person who won? You do realize they did it. What you're saying is for Trump is simply because he's Republican. Because if Trump would have been a Democrat, it would have been him and had his name on it. So we do realize it's a Republican foundation who has Republican views, who have written this for the next Republican candidate. So no, it's not Trump's. So we can say what all we want. Those things are
those are semantics, man.
It's a difference. It's not semantics, it's fact. It's a difference when you say it may favor him if he get into presidency, but you're saying it like the dude sat down and wrote the 900 pages.
I didn't say that. I didn't.
No. I didn't say you said it, but you're treating it when you say it.
And we still can't adopt it without Congress coming through on it.
Right.
It's not 900 pages of executive orders.
So you can't flesh that out and actually say that, because there again, that's what's going all out in the media and what's getting black folk riled up. It is Trump's races. 2025 is going to be the death doomsday of it, and we'll get into some specifics of 2025 that when I read in the parts that I looked over, which it won't all 900 pages, but when I looked at it, I said, not because I don't consider myself what we call a conservative. I consider myself a Christian. Christianity is conservative. That doesn't mean all conservatives are Christian. So before anybody blow a head gasket, but here's the thing about the faith innately is conservative. Whether we like that or not, we ain't rewriting the Bible. Those of us who think we can stick our chest out to attempt to, you're going to end up being on Satan's side because of cultural influence. So what we have to realize is that now I'm looking for, and it's funny, what's funny about that, and Duke will come to you and Mr. Shepherd in a minute. But you want to know what is funny about like talking with two tongues? And I'm not saying Chris doing this, I'm just talking after you. I'm just saying I'm reminded of this when I hear people say, oh, we're not voting for a pastor. but we're voting for. So we're not voting for a pastor. It's like we're not voting for our skin. Or should we? Or is it okay to vote for both? Because, like I said, in order for it to be a good principle, it has to work both ways. And when I'm looking at not only conservative views, when I look at what is going to be the threat of not religious freedoms, but Christian freedoms, because you do know in the coming years, it's going to be proven that Christian freedoms and religious freedoms are two totally different things. At least they're going to be treated that way. And so when we look at this all together, and when I look at Project 2025, and I'm looking at how they are guarding the family, which is when we talked about, oh, Trump's the devil. Here's the thing about two people who could be evil. They could be evil for different reasons, but can still be evil. So Oprah, I consider an evil person, just like I consider your boy who died that was preaching inclusion. But both of them don't do the same thing. One is a false prophet. Somebody don't claim to be saved, but I still consider them both evil. So I believe Trump may be evil for different reasons than Kamala and everybody else, because if you are an advocate for not only murdering the babies, which if you look at the general headlines, abortion, big government, government assistance, when you look at the headliners and then the LGBT movement, that's what make me look at and be like, hey, now that's not saying everybody who is not saved, but Republicans are on board with all that, because I understand they are not saved, and we're not saying that. But here's what I will say. What I will say is that they are evil, but they are evil for different reasons. And when we look at it, I truly do believe as time go on, it is two wings on the same bird. So I believe as time go on, you will see them merge because of the greater, well, not greater, the greater evil, what's coming. But I think when we say stuff like that, we got to really quantify and be like, well, it is this, but it ain't that. But to say one is evil and one is not,
I have a question.
That sounds real groupthink stuff.
I have a question, and it's not a group thing. My thing is this: tell me any other president that led an insurrection against its own country.
No,
This is what I'm saying.
I'm not saying he didn't do that. I can give things that happened. I'm not saying he didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I am saying, like I said before, you're naming 2 or 3 things that you think, and you can maybe name 20 that you think are evil from Trump.
I didn't necessarily say evil. That was somebody in the comments.
We're going to all say if you lead an insurrection, the 5 of us here say if you lead one, that's a bad thing to do. All right. So nobody's.
Yeah, but my point with bringing that up is when people try to say that Kamala and Joe is the same as him. That's what I'm saying. Is there are obvious things that you can see?
Well, nobody said the same.
No. I'm just saying wrong is wrong, right is right. But what I'm saying is, if you, and I hate to even say it this way, but if you put morals or religion aside, what I'm just saying is, or religion aside, and you just look at who is a decent person, you know what I'm saying? I would say that Kamala and Joe, are more.
So why would you? So what would you base that off of? Being that you don't know him, Chris.
What you mean? What I base it off of?
What you said? You said
no, I'm not.
You said you put religiosity to the side. You said it's just as people. How would you know that if you don't know them? You only know.
No. I'm not saying that I know him personally. You trying to take it somewhere else. What I'm saying is this. That's why I brought up the thing about January 6th. What I'm saying is when you try to say that this person is just as bad as this person, I'm saying even at just doing their job in a decent way, you know what I'm saying, they're better than him on that. That's what I'm saying.
Here's what I want to say.
And Mr. Shepard, y'all go. Yes, sir.
First of all, the Bible tells us in Psalm 146 to put your trust in no prince, no governments. That's the first thing. It also tells us that the government will find rest on the shoulders of Christ. Throughout history, human history, we have never seen a government that actually was for the people. That's the first thing. The invasion of government in our lives. This is a free nation where people do have the right to believe. But you have to remember, our nation was also born out of rebellion from Great Britain, right? That's how our nation was born. And so when I look at all the presidents that ruled during the time of slavery, they were still presidents during that time that approved slavery. So when we say Trump is the worst president of all time, it's like, that we're making the same reckless speech that Trump does himself. Because when you say he's the worst president of all time, it's like, oh, so the presidents that approved slavery were good. The presidents that were okay with black people not having a voice or black people voting, those were good. So when I look at the adaptation and the growth process, we're looking at presidents who are also trying to govern us as we evolve as a people, as we become more enlightened, and they're trying to govern the changes with technology. Nothing is the same as it was when they grew up, and they're trying to govern a people from perspectives of the past during the present, right? And so even when you look at, can people change? If you listen to Biden, the argument is because he said a lot of racist stuff from the 80s and 90s all the way up to calling us monkeys and things like that. Even in his campaign, he said,
who did that?
Biden.
So why we don't hear about that? Is if
this is what I'm saying is the media, when the media got involved, this is where we as the people,
that's why I was going.
I gotta step back and do my own personal research,
Right.
because the media and corporate agendas
There you go.
are heavily involved in both sides. The way, like I like to hear a fool talk so I can know what they believe. But when I see the media going out of his way to block somebody, and I'm like, yo, I thought it was freedom of speech. I thought it was, we get, with the internet, I thought we could say what we need to say. But when you got the internet folks, and the only thing they allow certain people to say with certain beliefs is to make them sound stupid. And all I see is the process that they're going to do to Christians pretty soon. The same process, because you're already seeing Facebook and you're already seeing social media block Christian content the exact same way. When I look at the persecution that's going to be coming in the last days to believers, is going to be for the same conversation, because most people who don't believe in God, the definition of their word freedom is actually rebellion. They merged the word, they took the meaning of rebellion and put it to the word freedom. And so when we start talking about freedom in Christ, they're going to hear bondage, oppression, and then we become the bad guys. So if we don't pay deep attention to this, we're going to lose ourselves. And the last thing I'm going to say is this. When I look through the Bible, I do see God using pagan kings constantly to deliver his people, to establish laws over his people. When his people are not rising up, this is why in the beginning when I said a lot of this mess is because the church sat back instead of moving up and left it to politicians to deal with when they weren't qualified for this. This was spoken of in Matthew 24 when he said, because of iniquity, false teachers are going to rise up. And these false teachers don't necessarily mean religious leaders. It also means in the form of politicians, and so when we look at what's happening right now, and this is so serious, guys, when we look at what's happening right now, we're seeing that because of the silence of men and women of God not leading in communities, these vampires on both sides have taken advantage, saying there's no leadership. The people are vulnerable. So now guess exactly what happens. They divide us, divide and conquer. Who's really behind it? Corporate America, running both sides. And
go ahead and finish your point. Then we got to get to Dr. Shepard. We got to let Dr. Shepard get in there.
Is that when we talk about the insurrection on January 6th, I actually saw a Democrat congresswoman say we got to fight. I saw the footage, and then all of a sudden it disappears because it was live. I saw a young man from Antifa say, we're going to take that MF in White House if they don't do this. And that was from Antifa, a young black man. And then all of a sudden they cut his mic when he said that. And then all of a sudden that footage gets taken off from social media and YouTube. So when you got a media manipulation, we've got to rise above, because technically, I'm not saying that Trump is any type of way, Christ, anything like that, but the same type of conspiracy and let's make Jesus look bad type stuff, we cannot underestimate human corruption and political corruption.
Appreciate you, Duke. Listen, and as I pass it on to Dr. Shepard, let's let Dr. Shepard get in there. There was some good stuff there. But to kind of go along with that, we have to understand the power and the importance of media and how it dictates what we think is the worst and not. Because could it be that? Because here's one thing. I've never heard it about. I don't hear too many folks say, we hear Trump racist. We don't hear Biden is racist, though racist stuff have come out of his mouth. Now, how powerful is that when it comes to media? Not only that, we say he's the worst president ever. So Could it be that media didn't show you any and everything, all the intricacies like it do now? Because you know, one thing about the Michael Jordan era that's different than the LeBron James era, you saw all of his flaws and mistakes because the cameras never turned off now on LeBron. So you forgot half of Jordan's mistakes, though he made them. And so let me think about that. Think about the president. So what would we think about the president in the past who Trump was worse than, who used black people's teeth to replace his own? Oh, okay. But you see, the difference is media wasn't there to dictate as much as public opinion as it is now.
And I want to add
that's the reason why we have to go back to what the initial point was. If we can get it and dig for ourselves, because when we fight through all the narrative and all the propaganda, if you don't see that there's liars, if people say Trump's a liar, if you think that there's not liars on both sides, yeah, we really got an issue. And you're more controlled.
I want to add to that, Andrew.
Hold on, Duke, let me get Shepard in there, Duke. Hold on. Let Dr. Shepard, what you have to say, and then we want to open it up and move to some other things.
He who controls the narrative controls the people. The media controls the narrative. And because we, by large, and we can't argue this, are more, look across the board, we are more of an emotional people. We get stirred easier. And I'll speak for myself. There's some, back in, I think, 2021, there was a police shooting right here in North Carolina in Elizabeth City. And I was in my office at my desk and I cried, angry. But when I saw the whole body cam footage, I felt like a fool. And I said, that'll never happen to me again. And so I think we have to really be better thinkers. We have to be more watchful before we respond. And understand that the media is not for any of us. They control the narrative. And so I'm very careful now of anything. It's almost like you can't believe too much of anything you see. Because what appears to be true may not necessarily be true.
And you know what goes to that point, and Duke, I'm gonna come to you and Chris White. I'm gonna come to both the whites here when I say this, and that is hold on, let me make sure y'all pray for me in this stuff, okay? And I'm gonna say this to go along with your point, Doctor. Thank you so much for sharing that. Here's one thing that I learned from one Doug Williams, who, when he worked in the news, I never would have realized this had I not talked to someone who worked behind the scenes and understand how national news and media is dispensed. I did not realize that statistically, the same year that there was a lot of seemingly shootings and killings of black people by police hands, I did not realize that statistically more white people were shot and killed by the police the very same year that we got mad that it was killing black people. And what happens is, and you know, there's a picture up about perspective and kind of show you vantage point and how so powerful it is, because I'm like, man, I didn't know that. And I promise you, I bet most of us still to this day don't realize that the real life statistic of that same year that we got mad at them killing black people, and we know killing is bad, and we know it's right. We can't be mad at it just when it happens to people. Look like we just got to be mad of it, period. But it was amazing. Nobody would have guessed that more white men were killed by police gun than black men on the same year that all of that heightened was elevated. And that just shows you the power of how we all control. So I, like you, Mr. Shepard, thank you for saying that, because I had a personal conviction of something I even saw today and yesterday to say, you know what, I was about to respond, but I'm like, let me wait to get the whole perspective, because I'd end up like everybody else. So thank you so much for sharing that piece. And Duke and Chris, we'll let any one of y'all go, and then we're going to move on to
real
the next
quick.
section.
I just want to say this. I want to remind everybody that the reason why we have to step up to a kingdom mentality when we're dealing with this and out of that personal emotions, one, we dealing with like David. He killed a man. He even said himself, if the people find out, they gonna kill me. And what does Nathan do to prophet? He covers them. Then we look at the who wrote most of the New Testament, Paul, who used to kill Christians. So we talking about, when you look at modern day politicians, even the politicians back in the day, they used to shoot each other over politics to get a point. So when we deal with humanity, it's already going to be messy. We killed our own Messiah as a human species. So the psychology of humanity is already going to be, this false sense of morality and all of this other stuff. So we want to be really kingdom minded in how God deals with stuff. Why would God use someone like Paul? Why would God use someone like King Xerxes or King Cyrus? Why would God use these pagans? Because God is trying to, my fiance told me this one time. She said, God is the God of the slave and the slave master. And that's a nasty concept. Like, oh my God, he's trying to reconcile the species. And these corporate agendas constantly divide us, where we lower kingdom mentality into the divisiveness that never gets to resolve. If we can stay focused on resolution, then what ends up happening, Democrats and Republicans come together seeking truth versus competing with each other, identifying the flaws and the gaps in each other so we can get closer to resolve. But as long as we dog each other out because we see in something that the other person doesn't see, we'll never get to healing as a species. So what ends up happening is we can, when I hear people talk, like when I see people blatantly forget,
real quick,
when I see people blatantly forget that the abortion started off to eliminate black people because they were saying,
why do we overlook what most people don't even realize who Margaret Sanger is?
Right.
But that's what we'll do. We'll support the agenda that helps support her cause. They get this. Here's one thing that ain't an opinion. It's a fact that one of the most effective things against me as a black man, the reason why we are not the majority minority anymore is because of her work. And guess who's the biggest advocates of her work?
Right.
That agenda. But go ahead.
17,
but real quick finish so we can get to
I'm just saying 17 million black babies have been killed because of her belief system, right? And you got to understand that was enough to start a new country. Okay, we would have more doctors and lawyers and police officers. We wouldn't be dealing with the brutality that we're dealing with. If we had 17 million more of us, they would be in their 50s and 60s right now.
All right, wrap it up, Duke. We got to go.
My point is that we have to have a kingdom mindset versus an emotional perspective. I just had a conversation with my mother. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. She said, "Duke, I vote Democrat because I'm black. That's what we do." Without no policies, we gotta rise above all of that.
Right. And real quick, because there was at least, I guess, 4 or 5 folks saying the same thing. Let me answer the thing that was said when I brought up that here's the thing. We know that it's more white people than black people. But let me answer the people that when I gave the analogy about, here's the thing. But if we really be real honest, did we know that was a reality? Probably not. If we be honest, because sometimes when we want to try to bring home points, sometimes we may want to get a little, not be real honest about that's a good point. So here's the point about the fact that there were more white men that died at the hand of cops than black men in the year where we got mad. Let me ask you this question. How many got TV time that were white? Right. All of the black ones got TV time. How many white ones got TV time? Because my only point in bringing it up is to really piggyback behind what Shepard and Duke was saying about the power of the media. They show you what they want to show you, and you're not getting the whole story. We know that there's more white people in the country, but I'm just proving to you that there is an agenda. You didn't see that reported. But every black person that you saw that got killed, there was not one left out from news and media time, period. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yes, sir, Chris.
Chris, were you gonna say something or?
Nah, man, y'all about to put me to sleep, man.
Okay.
But
I was just,
no, go ahead. Y'all can come back to me.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback, and I'm gonna try to be really, really quick. My regular job is as a director of marketing. I started out in communications behind the scenes with TV and directing and all of that, but now I market in South America, North America, Canada, all of that. And the point when we're talking about media and how to control a lot of things, obviously if I'm marketing through social media for a company and I'm marketing for nonprofits and churches, when I go behind the scenes now in Meta, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and all of that, 6 years ago, I could get the keyword gospel music, church, this, that, and the other. And I could then run an ad to the people who would type those into the search bars. In the last 4 years, they've removed those. Those are no longer an option. So I can pull up an ad and say, I want an audience like J. Cole. But if I put in Lecrae, it's not available. If I put in gospel rap now, it's not there. They tell me I have to choose something else. So when we're talking about, you don't even know what the media is doing. What that is doing is driving your search. When you look for something, I'm not allowed to sponsor that now. So I can come up with something general like Christianity, but I can't hit direct and targeted things behind that. And to the point of Crawley, when he was going to the idea of the year that we had, I'll call the whole BLM movement and all of that. The justice numbers have been adjusted since I looked at them around that time. That year, 19 whites, and it wasn't how many were killed, it was how many were unarmed and killed. It was 19 whites and 9 blacks. And the percentages, the point is, if the media had shown whites getting killed by the cops and blacks getting killed by the cops, the division between the races of Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, Which Lives Matter would have been gone, because everybody would have said, oh, it's a cop problem. We got to retrain the cops, because it was not aiming at just one group. But you were taught at this point in time, you're the victim. And as the victim, what can you do? So then you lose the idea that my Father God said, I'm not, you don't begin to look to your faith. You start going for what they've shown you. That's why I'm telling you, you got to get your own meal. You can't eat what they serve.
Can I piggyback on that just real fast?
Okay, and then we're going to go to some, and if y'all got some specific things too, while Duke is talking, if y'all got some specific things as far as policies that you all feel that were back one point, one way or the other, or some policies that people are deeming that may be negative that you see from a positive, let y'all get those up as we going on the last leg of this while Duke speaks. So
I want everybody to write this down. Every viewer, write this down and pay attention. Look up the contraband decision. Martin Luther King didn't know about it. Malcolm X didn't know about it. The contraband decision, because the media didn't cover it, and then nobody taught about the contraband decision. The contraband decision is one of the biggest parts of history, and is actually the real reason why Abraham Lincoln wrote the Emancipation Proclamation in the first place. And it was 3 slaves that ran to a fort from Virginia separated itself from the north and went to the south. 3 slaves from Virginia ran to a Fort Monroe where they met General Butler. General Butler was about the common practice was to release the slaves back, right? When he heard their stories, General Butler said, we're not going to give them back to the slave chasers. He sends a brigade to all the other forts. This is very powerful. All the other forts saying, do not send the slaves back because they're using the slaves against us. So the 50,000 slaves ran for their freedom in 1 month. 1 month, breaking the back of slavery. But this story never gets told. And when we presented this story to the head of Black History at ODU, she said she had never heard of it before. This is what I mean about media. Like you said, playing the victim, taught us that we were victims. We're not even victims. We actually descendants of the not even descendants that built through our blood, sweat, and tears from slavery. We're actually the descendants of men and women of God who actually fought against oppression.
Yes, sir.
Remember when Kanye West said 400 years of slavery and didn't nobody do nothing? Something wrong with that? Find out he was actually right. The story never got told. We heard about Harriet Tubman, but we didn't hear about the contraband decision. The contraband decision is one of the most powerful, non-talked about historical movements. Abraham Lincoln was about to say slavery was going to be legal in the South and not the North. But because so many Black people ran for their freedom, took the power back, and fought against it, now that's the reason why we're free today. And that because the media didn't talk about it, the media didn't want that story the same way during the civil rights movement. The media didn't want to show white people standing beside Black people, because now we got
right.
Divide. They didn't want to show white people getting. So now there's a psychological thing in our mind saying that there's no such thing as a good white person. There's no such thing as and we have this divisive mindset because we depend too much on media. We addicted to it.
Right. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for the good point. Real quick to kind of open us up, Doug, if you will, you took a look at Project 2025. What stuck? Just give like some general synopsis, or even some things that stuck out to you, that because there were some things that stuck out to me that even when I looked, because I didn't read the whole thing, but I looked at what both sides were saying about it. and what one side was pointing out as evil. To be honest, because I foundationally love scripture, I saw it as a good thing.
Yeah.
But to that, what do you say? Just to kind of open us up, and then we'll respond to some things you say about Project 2025. Because generally speaking, when I saw it, I loved a lot of things that was in it that we look at as bad. That for one, we came to rely on and are comfortable with it. That we don't understand how it has indoctrinated our children, and we don't understand one of the arts about life. One of the key wisdoms about life and leadership is understand how to connect the fruit of the problem with the cause of the problem.
The root.
Yes, most of us can identify the fruit, but we don't know when you trace it all the way back, why is this happening? And sometimes we got to trace it back to the Judeo-Christian family structure. And whenever you mess with that family structure, you leave up holes for the enemy to get in. And that's one reason why now kids who come up in homes or where their parents go to church or took them to church, when they leave their mom and daddy house, they think nothing like their mom and daddy and don't even believe in their mom and daddy Jesus.
Right.
So when we look at all of this, all of this stuff that we're seeing now, it came from somewhere. And here's one thing I can guarantee you. It didn't come from just the last 4, 8, or 12 years of whoever was in president. Because here's one thing, some things I want to throw out to you all. And I want y'all to research them. Have you ever heard of people like Madame Blavatsky?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You ever heard of somebody like by the name of Aleister Crowley?
Crowley.
Have you ever heard of Alice Bailey?
Mm.
Because if you want to talk about evil people and how the faces that we see are just puppets of a bigger agenda, here's one thing that we do. Research them and see how long the term New Age have been around.
Mm-hmm.
Research them and then you'll find out the underlying of Margaret Sanger's agenda.
Yep.
Who, when we lend votes to this certain thing, is helping her agenda take place. So here's the thing, and this is why I say it's bigger than what they want us to get mad at the moment, because all I want y'all to do is study those names and study the New Age agenda, and then look at the plan and look at us today and where we are on the plan to see it's bigger than what we're talking about. And so our support should go beyond the faces that they tell us we need to hate, because I promise you what they're pushing, they are puppets to those 3 people that I name. I hope you write them down or just research them, and you'll find out like, yeah, it's really bigger than what they, really telling us that it is. And when it comes down to schooling, which was historically speaking, is a new concept with how we treat it. Even daycare, childcare is a new concept. But here's the thing: whether we like to admit it or not, it is easier on the parent when both parents are trying to chase the American nightmare. Dream. So what happens is we turn our kids over to be indoctrinated and raised by the world while mom and dad go to work. And as long as we got somebody to babysit our folks and then train them to think, even if they don't think like us, but they spend the night at our house, we don't understand how this breakdown didn't just happen these last few years. It has been in play. And here's one thing that the devil don't mind doing. He don't mind putting something in place and waiting, because he's very patient. He'll wait for decades to now these kids grew up. They're now the adults that are teaching and indoctrinating other kids. This is why we got to realize it's a lot bigger than that. And that everything rises and falls for me on end time persecution. And I can't push any agenda that I know already has proven. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. And if you would say it's an opinion, then guess what? You're already indoctrinated more than you realize. It is literally a numbers thing that you can research for yourself about the fact that because we've aborted a small country, if you add those numbers to black people now, we still would be the majority minority. But now it's white people, it's brown people, and then it's black people. And so
Andrew,
that is a real issue. But yes, sir, go ahead. And then then we'll come to you to kind of open us up for the last segment. Yes, sir.
How in the world can we talking about a party that we're pro-black, we love our people, but how can we continue to support agendas that like disintegrate our race? Since if we love black people, because we cannot have our communities are in a shambles. We cannot have healthy black communities without healthy black families, and we can't have healthy black families without healthy fathers in the families. So there's an agenda carefully devised and designed to what's the word I'm looking for when it comes to our men emasculate men.
Annihilate.
Yeah.
And what gets me, what I don't understand, our people co-sign the agenda.
Co-sign, sir. Oh, you almost got an offering out of me. Go ahead. Because now we want to. Now here's one thing about us. Now black people really love black people. Why do we co-sign the things that destroy us? Why do we say hands off? You know, we'll talk about, well, why you don't talk about the white man's music, but you talk about the black man's music? Because you know what? Black folks ain't listening to the white poison. They listening to the black poison. And so guess what? It's not enough for us to go around, but we co-signing on the agendas that is already proven that they are taking us out of here. You want to talk about LGBT? I don't need to hear no woman speak friendly of that, because the reason why black women don't have more options is because of the LGBT agenda, which guess what? Though we only make up a roughly between 12 to 14% of the population, we are like the second lead in percentage wise in that. And so when you look at government assistance,
Right.
we make up a third of all government assistance. But look at the percentage of nation was that. Guess what? That is something that's destroying us, because you know what government assistance fight against? Black marriage. Because the moment you have a black man in your home, they will take your benefits. But these are the things that we'll co-sign on because it's wrapped up in a candy wrapper and say, hey, these people are for us because they're giving us handouts. Here's the thing. I'm not above getting handouts sometimes. But the thing about it is, if it's not ran to help rehabilitate us, because anybody can go through hard times. But if it's not made to wing us off and make us responsible, it is doing more harm than good. So when I looked at Project 2025, and I want to segue this into Doug, because I said I was coming to him, because from what he looked into it, I saw the things that they vilified that I'm saying that's good when you want to look at more accountability to and dismantling some stuff about the educational system. Because the educational system is a problem when I look at its effects on the black people. Guess what? Black education gets more out of the black community than the black community gets out of black education when you're going to consider its debts. So not only that, when I also look at things like, oh, they really are really heartstrong on attacking abortion. So we want to talk about evil people. Anybody that makes murdering a baby a woman's rights issue, I see the horns on your head. You evil for a different reason, but you're still evil. Because here's one thing about Trump. None of us have said he's good. None of us have said he's a Christian. None of us has ignored the stuff that he's done. All I'm saying is the reasons that we call him evil, that I would agree with you about, for different reasons, I call these people evil. And I would ask, why does there seem to be a line about, I can easily and readily identify him as evil, but I can't so easily identify the others as evil. So when we look at Project 25 and I look at how aggressively they are going to kind of preserve the family. Now, I don't like all the ways that they're going about it, I see, because the ways that they're going about it do seem to be what I would call not unbiblical, but un-American.
Yeah.
And so I know Americans won't get used to it because they come in real strong with how they want to carry this plan out. But the effects of the plan, I don't see robbing black people as much as I see helping our borders, at least helping us not abort as many babies, which when we look at all the clinics, they in the hood. You don't see too many abortion clinics in places that's what people have money. And then married people don't really get a lot of abortion.
Trump said,
when we look at all that, we just
okay, just a couple of things. It's a lot that I want to say, but just going back to Trump. Trump said that if an abortion ban came across his desk, he said he would veto it. And that's what I'm just saying is it's like he don't stand on anything. It was another point that you made, and
so he don't stand on that, Chris. But that's proof that if Project 25 is pushing that, but he would veto it, that shows that it ain't all him. But go ahead.
No. Yeah, you seem like you're trying to twist everything I say, bro. But
no, it's not everything. It's only been 2 and a half and a half.
No, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. But I just been letting y'all talk because I feel like we talked a lot about a whole bunch of everything except for what the agenda was supposed to be. But and I'll say this. Somebody said, I think it was Goldie said earlier, it's bigger than that. And I understood what she was saying, because when it comes down to us as Christians, sometimes when it comes to the election and things, we really just get stuck on 2 or 3 main issues. And when it comes, huh?
They are the general issues.
No. They're the issues. They're the 3 issues that Christians, you know what I'm saying, seem to jump on. And that's why, you know what I'm saying, like, I really feel like it's a lot of stereotyping when you talk about the Democratic Party, and not realizing that the same thing could be said for the Republican Party. And when I say that, I mean this. So when you look at the so-called Republican Party, because they're not the Republican Party of old, you know what I'm saying? There are sects in it. There's a sect in the Republican Party now that is straight racist. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Proud Boys, this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? You're not letting me finish. You're not letting me finish.
You're doing the exact same thing that you're claiming other people do. So here's the thing.
No. You're not even letting me respond.
So
bro.
I'm gonna let you respond, but I'm just saying what you got to do is you throwing stuff out there. Like, give us something that could stick. Because
you don't let me finish. You don't let me finish, so I can't make it stick.
Bro, that ain't sticking when you say
no. I'm
some racist boys. Can you give us policy? Give us some policy that Christians shouldn't fool with the Republican Party. Because
you trying to throw my point off by saying bring up policies, and what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to make a point, and I don't even get to my point because you cut me off before I could get to the point. My point was there are racist sect that gravitates towards Trump because he feeds them red meat. There is a Christian sect who flock to Trump because he feeds them red meat, which is their 2 or 3 big issues that's big for Christians. You know what I'm saying? And so all I'm saying is that there are people in both parties there are people in the Republican Party who are true Republicans who are like John McCain type Republicans. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't lump them all in together.
Cody, that's not true.
No. I'm saying I don't lump all of them in together.
I wasn't talking about you, Chris. I was talking about.
I don't lump everybody. I don't lump everybody in because I realize there are some people who might vote for Trump, but they're not voting for Trump because they love Trump. They're voting for Trump because they just true Republicans. They're voting for Trump because they're just true Christians and they're on these issues. But on the flip side, there are some people who are just as Christian as some of the other people that's gonna register Republican. There are some Democrats who love God, you know what I'm saying, and we cannot lump all of them in because at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, there's only so many choices. And so when it all boils down, let's say both of them was bad apples over here and bad apples over here. There are some things that are bigger than all of that I look at, like the fact that if you vote for Trump, you're actually voting for a dictatorship. That's what he wants. Also, if you vote for Trump, who is already talking about taking not helping Ukraine, you take the money away from Ukraine, and Putin, because Trump act like he's Putin's girlfriend. I think he got a Trump tower in Moscow. You take the money away from Ukraine, then Putin is going to try to take Poland and so on and so forth. And Poland is actually, I believe, in a part of NATO. So now we are looking at World War III because he want to say we're not giving Ukraine no more help. So that, all I'm saying is, as a Democrat or a person that might be a Democrat, and it's not that they're anti-God or they're not looking at the fact that I don't like the abortion issue and all this, that, and the third. It's the fact that it's complicated and we can't just put people in a box. That's my whole point.
No. Here's the thing. Hold on, dude. Here's the thing that we have to realize. I've listed 3 policies. They are notable mainstream general policies for a party. And what happens is people in the comments, not just directed at you, Chris White, but we say things like, these are just some policies that Christians want to harp on. Question is, shouldn't they be harped on? if the effects of them have been doing what they're doing, and look at what they would do, and if we take the sample size and look at where will we end up 10 years from now. So I just asked you to give, because I listed 3 of the mainstream policies. I would like you to list 3 mainstream policies that we shouldn't fool with from that party, and then
Obamacare
and three that we should from
Obamacare, medical care for everybody. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't fool with that. They shouldn't fool with Social Security. And when we talk about Social Security, we're not talking about welfare. We're talking about elderly people. We're talking about our parents and grandparents. It's a whole lot of things. They shouldn't fool with what's in Project 2025. They want to do away with everything teaching about Black history. You know, it's a lot of stuff. They want to use the military to like, okay, what's the sister that just died? Sonya Massey, right?
Yeah.
Sonya Massey just got shot down. And we could talk about, you can't believe everything in the media, whatever. From what I've seen, the sister got murdered. You know, by the police, flat out.
That's what it looked like.
So whether it's Sister Massey, whether it's Trayvon Martin, whether it's George Floyd, because we're the ones primarily that that we see getting killed by police. And yes, you know what I'm saying, there are more white people because there's more white people in the world. They getting killed too, and a lot of times they involved with crime.
But no media with that though. But
I mean, but the thing is, we the ones that need the media. You know what I'm saying? But my whole point is this. I mean, it's like I don't know. It seems like you're trying to downplay the whole killing the Black people thing. But my point is this: getting back to
how would you say you're doing exactly what you say?
No, getting back to.
I just say just downplaying something is when you say it's not that bad. It's a difference of saying it's not that bad.
When you try to say
when you do that, I can't let you do that. You said downplay.
When you put the numbers up,
when you say it's not the only thing happening. That's
no.
not
when you put those numbers up, you say, well, there was more Black, there was more white people, because we know that there are more white people in America. The numbers are going to be that.
You missed the point, because I didn't talk about what happened. I talked about what was promoted, Chris. How many times did we see it on media? I didn't say that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't. The thing is, I don't care if it's not promoted.
Okay, well, you don't care it's not promoted. You just contradicted yourself, because we talked about the importance, and we've been talking about even beyond this date, the importance of the media. So if you say you don't care what's being promoted, so that means promotion don't really have an effect when it comes to the worldwide mass of mind.
Bro, you twisting everything I'm saying. All right, but I still didn't get a chance. I still let me finish my point, and then y'all can have it. Okay, my point is this: you asked about policies in Project 2025. There and this is from Trump's Truth Social, where they got the recommendation from. The next time that a brother or sister, white or Black, get killed by the police and people get in an uproar, they're going to be able to call the military up, the nasty guard, and shoot these people down in the street. That is not a good policy. You know what I'm saying? Because we're supposed to have the ability, the constitutional right to peacefully protest. And this is the problem. You know what I'm saying? It's been said a long time: no justice, no peace. And a lot of people want peace without justice. You know what I'm saying? When they went across Selma's Bridge, they were not violent. But the only reason why they got any kind of action is because the cameras came out. And so part of this Project 2025 is trying to make sure that there's nothing you can do, and some people don't even have the courage to post a comment standing on what they stand on Facebook. What are you gonna do when they kill somebody and you want to protest, but they shooting people with bullets? That's
Chris,
a problem.
You're asking a question. You're asking a question, and let me just say this:
Go ahead,
I appreciate your passion on it. And I appreciate the idea that you are worried about what 2025 can do. However, again, I don't think you're reading it and taking what's there. So, for example, if we go through history, every time that we had the National Guard called out, it was normally by a Republican who was trying to help. And we go all the way back to 1954 going against a Democrat. Now, when we take it right now and say that they want to have the National Guard be able to be called in, you take it to the next step and say, and shoot everybody who is protesting.
Because
That's where
Trump,
we're in.
no,
Now,
because
let me finish.
Trump
Let
said
me finish.
the last time he
Please.
said, "Can we shoot them?" And they did shoot them with
Stop,
rubber bullets
stop,
before.
Stop.
Okay.
We're talking about Project 2025, and it talks about authorizing the National Guard to come out, which we've had happen throughout history. It does nowhere in there say, then use deadly force against the crowd. So that's a jump. Secondly, you said we should have the right to peacefully protest. We do. But the protests that we had during the whole, I'll call it that BLM summer, were not always peaceful. And we know they weren't. We know they destroyed stuff in their own communities as well as in others. And so peacefully protesting is one thing. Destroying my business is not something that you have protection from the law to do. So we go in, I mean, we're supposed to go into Project 2025 a little bit. I want you to read some of it and don't say, well, this means that. So for example, somebody posted that if you're in a private school, you don't have to deal with the military, but if you're in a public school, you're gonna have to go in the military. And that's how they posted it. And what's there on page 103 says, if you are a school receiving federal funding, the students, they want them to take the military entrance exam. If you're at a private school, you don't get any federal funds, that's not happening. And the reason they're doing that, and they stated right before that, is because Army recruitment and registering in our military is so low that they're trying to let kids know, hey, you can qualify and have such and such a career. So it's being taken, hey, you're going to take the test, as we're taking public schools and forcing these people to go into the military. It's been jumped that far. So when you read it, you can't take this string and stretch it all the way here and say, here's what's going to happen. You don't know.
I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm saying is
but you did say they were going to stand in the street and kill people.
No.
You can't go much further than that. You said that.
No, I'm saying no, but what I'm saying
did you say that?
You said, did I say that?
Yes. Did you say that?
I mean, I may have, but I'm just saying is everything that I say is not literal.
Well, you can't say stand in the street.
Well, when we go by what you say,
but what I'm saying is
we're twisting what your words if we responded to what you say.
Okay, but what I'm saying is this: if it opens the door for that possibility, that's what this is. It does.
We've already been doing it. We've already been calling in the National Guard in emergency situations.
No, not for shutting down protesters like that.
Well, when I look at the violence,
I just went through the 60s.
And this is something that I'm a subject matter expert on, because when it comes down to the National Guard, all of the National Guards have to respond to the governor, not the president. But what I'm saying is this gives the president the power to do that.
Agreed. And one of the biggest problems, I'll go ahead and agree with you on this. One of the biggest problems with Project 25, and Crawley has mentioned there's a lot of things they do to support the family. There's some things that they do to I think help education by removing the Department of Education, which did not come about until the late 70s, and ever since then we dropped. But the biggest problem in Project 2025 is the grab for power for the executive branch. Which means the president. There are things in it that allow whoever is the president, which is how it was designed, to be able to act on certain things without Congress. It allows him to be able to fire what we used to call lifetime government employees, and it reclassifies over 2 million workers into an area where we say they're appointees so they can be fired. So there's a lot of things that happen when a new administration comes in, and certain people just stay. This was their job, this, that, and the other. They weren't appointed for this position, that position. Project 2025 announces a change in that, and it then gives, so with the little time we got left, it does give too much power to the executive branch. But for this to come into play, you still have to have Congress approve. You can't go through this and take 990 pages and write executive orders that make each and every one of them happen. So again, this is a recommendation from an outside group. It is nothing that can even be implemented by one man by himself. So part of this fear and this and this and this are going to happen, and you got to worry about this so much, is not based on anything that's factual. That's the brilliance, part of the brilliance of the Constitution. And you're shaking your head no, but you got to tell me, how can it happen with one man wanting to do any of this? One of the things they did, like you said, they're attacking abortion very strong. One of the things right now, we have chemical abortion. There's a thing in there that mandates that that's against the law now. So we take away one piece of abortion. It's been mentioned that as African Americans with 44 million people, I did some calculations based on birth rate, death rate, this, that, and the other. Right now, there'd be about 68 million Black people if we did not have abortion.
100%.
So some of the things that Crawley is saying are in here actually work better for Blacks and Christians, and you kind of got to acknowledge that that's there. I'm not acknowledging there's some bad stuff in it, but the biggest thing I'm acknowledging is it's all fantasy. They've been doing it since 1981. It's never been implemented. But now all of a sudden it's on the news, and we got people turning their head going, it's crazy. Think about it.
And that's the difference. Thank you for, and do come to you. And that's the difference in between us, again, taking something that's real, but then coupling the mass hysteria from it that we get from groupthink. And that's the thing that's like, oh, like, okay, well, what is and what ain't reality? Because if we thinking with our hearts, while thinking we thinking with our minds, and the thing about it is okay, for the sidelines, for those of you all who say this is thank you so much for y'all encouragement to saying this is a great dialogue. Appreciate y'all. For those that say this is pointless or whatever the case may be, we're not begging you to stay here and watch. So you can turn off your sets, because we don't really, if you think this is bad and this is pointless, this is not doing our job, guess what? Why are you still here watching? Because we are having a conversation that's hard. Here's one thing that I love about all of these men up here. We took the time knowing that we got the courage to face a hard conversation that most people get overly emotional about, and then they leave feeling some certain type of way. But we thank God that hadn't happened here, and we don't expect it to happen here, and we still talking about the points of disagreement. It seems like some of y'all in the sideline can't handle that, and you are the people who just need to turn off and don't watch, because we didn't beg you to be here. So I wanted to say that, but go ahead, and then we're gonna do some closing stuff and wrap up real quick.
I want to look at some of the decisions that have been made with the Biden that we just seem to overlook because the media stopped talking about it. How the vaccine has been killing people, especially Black people, till this day. You know, the amount of people that has been dropping dead till this day because they didn't test it the right way, and the recklessness. And what I'm saying is that ungodliness is more dangerous than any bullet ever will be. Ungodliness. Humans are the most dangerous creatures we're more dangerous than anything on this planet. We are children of God, whether we believe in God or not. You are created by God. We're the most dangerous beings on this planet. And when we talk about, we mix words like control and oppression. Humans need to be controlled. You know what I mean? You can't just act like that. You can just trust people to be people. And because when you look at what's happened, we've seen an invasion, not only the vaccine, we've seen an invasion in our school systems where the homosexual community has been attacking our children. So I'm not even worried about bullets. I'm looking at the psychological warfare that's happened on the next generation, the immorality, the things that we've been massaged to believe that are okay, that clearly go against the word of God, that has a curse behind everything for generations. So when I see some of these policies that come through the Democratic Party and see the biblical violations, I'm thinking about the curses that come with them. When I look at some of these policies that come through the Republican, I'm looking at the curses that come with them. And so when I start seeing people talking about bringing the wrath of God on this nation, which clearly has been happening, and we cannot underestimate these curses go for generations. And I'm never going to disconnect from the principles of God to make stuff make more sense for me in a moment. Because I'm thinking about, what is this going to do to the generations, which the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have constantly failed on. They've always made decisions based off the moment, not the future, not the legacy. The one thing I can say about the Republican Party is that the Republican Party is about keeping government out of people's personal lives.
It's not as big on government as
it's like,
but I do.
And at the end of the day, that means that we have the ability to develop. This is why I was saying we can fuss and fight with each other all day over Republican and Democratic as the church sits by and watch the fussing and fighting, when really the church is the one that has access to more communities than anyone else. The church has, you know what I mean? If we would put this type of pressure on the church saying, hey, pastors, what are y'all doing for the poor? What are y'all doing to teach and educate children and single mothers? We're the only ones.
Come on.
God to
Yeah.
do this stuff.
That's
The
true.
body of Christ was
That's
the
right.
government was never meant to do the stuff. They trying to pick up the church's slack, and nobody's talking about it. And we
Right.
gotta come out of that.
Thank you. And as you all come up with, the whatever closing things that you all want to say too.
I
and I'm gonna talk,
just
but
got-
real quick, Dr. Shepard, I'm gonna pass it to you, and then I want
Okay.
to say this as I pass to you, because here's one thing that not only he reminded me of, but this is also a question that I want to put out. If we answered on the show or not, but guess what? When this show goes off and you're by yourself, answer and research, do your own research, and ask yourself this question. I can list 3 things that are attached to biblical curses that are general policies of the Democratic Party. Ain't no opinion. You ain't got to like it, but you can't change the fact that it's true. And if you're willing to sit down and have that conversation with you, I can open up the Bible, but I'm pretty sure you know where I'm coming from. There are 3 things that are that we can open up, not that we got to connect and deduce. There are 3 things that are directly tied to curses and the dismantling of earlier societies in the Bible that are general norms before Biden and Carmela and would be here after them, that was here during Obama and before Obama. That's what I know is true. If you could list me 3 direct policies that we could just turn, we ain't got to deduce, that's in the other policies and even more, then guess what? That's why we also want to talk about those too. Because here's the thing, there are some things that are just bad because the Bible says it's bad. And then there's some things that Americans aren't used to that might not be American wisdom that are not attached to the dismantling of societies and curses. And again, you can answer them, you can throw them out here. But if you do have those for the Republican side, then guess what? That's where they're being listened to. But if you don't, you have reason enough to be like, yeah, man, the more that I'm helping this go on, the more that I'm seeing what I'm seeing, the more that I understand that the LGBT movement is the only movement that can make the Christians seem like the bad guys. You do realize this, right? We realize that if you understand the times, the only ones who seem like they can oppose the freedom and what they call freedom is shameless. They want to remove anybody or any doctrine that brings or make them feel shameful for their acts that is already attached to shame. So this is why when we look at it, this is why it's warranted for Christians to vote a certain way. And I don't understand why, at least, even if you don't agree with it, you got to understand, I do see why Christians vote that way, because they're doing that from this, and this. Even if you don't agree, even if you don't vote that way. And that's the thing that we don't even take the time to do, because we got to, here's one thing about the new age and the vernacular is, we can't create every side and then think that every side has a part of validity to it, because truth don't work that way. Here's one thing I know about the truth. It doesn't pick a side. It is its own side. And what we do, if we look through the filter of truth and be like, okay, is there a side closer to it that may not be Christian or not? Or is there a side that is being more threatening of the truth, that wants to silence the truth? And get this, when you come to the Democratic Party, silencing truthful doctrines like the Bible. You do realize that ain't just happened today, but that has been years in the making. And if you all don't understand prophetically what has been going on by just digging a little bit, you're saying that they've already been trying to do that. So sometimes we even afraid to just say what the reality is. And that what happens is you try to derail and be like, that's just your opinion. Everything that comes out of man's mouth is not his opinion. And you doing your own homework will prove that, you know what, that wasn't his opinion, though I want it to be, because he wasn't on my side of the argument. So with that said, I want to toss it on to Dr. Shepard here, and then we're going to let everybody else have their closing views, and then we're going to get on out of here. And thank y'all so much for being patient and participating also on the sidelines. Yes, sir. Dr. Shepard,
okay. 2 points. So while everybody is chasing Project 25 down the rabbit hole, they're going to ease in Agenda 47. So with education, he's going to cut off funding to any schools that teach CRT, right? He's only going to certify teachers that embrace patriotic values. Everybody talk about prayer back in schools. That's not a big thing for me, because I believe prayer should start at home. And he's supporting the ability for teachers to carry firearms, which what's going to happen, you're going to start seeing black kids get murdered in the schools. That's a definite. Also, in universities, he gonna get rid of existing accreditors for college universities and create new ones who impose his party's values on institutions. And he's gonna levy fines on colleges and universities that he believes discriminate against students, with a plan to use those fines to create an online American Academy. The Justice Department, he's going to appoint 100 U.S. attorneys who are going to be aligned with his policies and investigate some left-leaning local DAs. Also, he pledges to establish a Department of Justice task force on protecting the right to self-defense. With crime, he going to invest in hiring and retaining police officers. He's going to increase their protection against liabilities, like what we saw happen to Miss Massey. That cop would be protected under this policy. He's going to bring back stop and frisk. He's promised to use the DOJ to dismantle every gang, every street crew. What you're going to see is a type of martial law in our streets in America to restore law and order. And with immigration, undocumented immigrants from receiving any benefits. He's going to stop birthright citizenship for their kids if the parents are undocumented. And with the economy, he's going to cut taxes, slash federal regulations, put tariffs on foreign goods. One thing he has said he wasn't going to do is in Agenda 47, which is his agenda, is stop Social Security. He said he's not going to touch Social Security. He shifted from that. No cuts to Social Security or Medicare under any circumstances. He's going to ban public camping by homeless people. He's going to ban the camps, and he's going to put them tents in a tent city. What he's going to do is put them in a concentration camp type setting. With transgender rights, any healthcare provider that provides affirming care for the youth, they're going to be terminated from Medicare and Medicaid. And he's going to strip federal funding from any school where an official or a teacher suggests that a child could be in the wrong body. So those are things that's definitely that Project 25, like you said, I think it was Andrew or Pastor White. Those are things that it's a probability, or they trying to put in design for any conservative president. But Agenda 47, that's his baby. That's coming. You count on that. And the last thing I want to say is this. When Jesus stood before Pilate, Pilate asked Jesus, he said, "So are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said this, "My kingdom is not of this world."
Lord Jesus.
I think we need to take that, us as believers, we believe that the world system is our kingdom. We don't outright say it, but by our actions, we actually believe. So think a minute. Let's get out of our emotions. Everything gonna get bad. You can't change it. Everything is getting ready to get really bad. No president can stop it. And if you can't see that as a believer, you have really drunk the Kool-Aid.
Drunk some real good Kool-Aid.
No president gonna be able to stop
with a little something in it.
and we as believers, we are gonna get persecuted. And there is gonna be a mass exodus of quote unquote so-called Christians leaving the church. That's gonna happen. It's coming sooner than we think. And so I think even though these issues are important, we better focus on the agenda of God. What is God's mission? To reconcile God and man. That trumps, excuse the pun, all of this stuff. All of it.
Appreciate you sharing that. I agree.
Yes, sir.
With that in part too. And real quick, I do want to address this. And it's funny you brought up one of the last things that I wanted to talk about closing, because I'm real big on rebuttaling what a lot of rebuttals. You know what I'm saying? And so you brought up one of mine, which I'll discuss in a minute. But I do want to bring attention to this because this is an example of us getting information passed on to us and us not researching what the reality is. And most people think this. So the statement is, statements like this is why Jefferson advocated the separation of church and state and why the country wasn't established as a theocracy. There's no war on Christian. Churches did it to themselves. I would disagree, especially with that second part. But here's what I will also say. Most people don't even realize separation of church and state. I would ask you, where is it in the Constitution? Not in there, people.
That's right.
But this is what happened when we keep giving a lot of information passed down. A lie often repeated becomes true to the one who often hears it and don't find out that is a lie. So here's the thing about now what we think is the separation of church and state. The thing that was implemented into our government, guess what it was put there for? To save and cover the church from the effects of government overbearing the church.
Right.
So this is we got a whole class of mindset shift of getting our stuff from a couple of YouTube clips, because most people don't realize that separation of church and state is not even really in there. And the thing that is in there that closely resembles it is really there to bring more favor and freedom to the church, which is now what we're trying to do is totally flip side that and say everybody has freedom now except for the church. So that's the first thing that I want to get out of the way. Secondly is this real quick, Duke, and then I'll give it to y'all and we'll go to that. It is this, because one thing, and this is what I thought about even for the show, like I said, I had this on my notes to bring up, because I don't like, which is the mindset in which I even wrote my whole book about the New Age vernacular, because I'm coming against a lot of things that we've normalized and say that is true, and they don't understand how deadly and deceitful, you know what I'm saying, that it is. Here's one thing that for years that I've been hearing that I don't like, though it's true, but the notion of it is totally untrue. And not only that, it's not only biblical, it don't even make common sense. Here's what I mean by that. When people say there's no need to vote with your Christianity because you're not voting for a pastor and Christian persecution is going to happen anyway, here's what's true about that. Christian persecution is going to happen regardless of who's in president and regardless if they're red and blue. But just because it's inevitable don't mean we shouldn't fight against the inevitable and help it come along more quicker. So let me give you an example that makes sense of what I'm saying. It's inevitable that everybody on this platform and everybody watching tonight will die. Is that not right? But do we help ourselves die? Do I say, because I'm going to die anyway, let me just drink poison or drive 200 miles an hour down the highway and do a lot of reckless and dangerous stuff because, hey, it's going to happen anyway? No, even though you know you're going to die, you still do stuff to fight against death because we love life and we try to preserve every breath and heartbeat that God has graciously given us. So this whole notion that, well, you can't stop it, so you might as well not lend your vote to support against it, that doesn't make sense anywhere else when you really try to make that make common sense, even though we all have to agree that we know it's inevitable and it has nothing to do about who's in office, because we all know America is not even on God's timeline, y'all. Think about it. America, I mean, I know we Americans and we love our country. I'm glad to the freedoms that we have, but America is God's time clock like that. But we think it is because we think we missed the big shot. So understand that it's not like we think it seems, and let's not quickly think about it, because again, when you can tell when people are reaching for certain rebuttals because they want to do what they want to do. I'd rather you to say, this is why I want to vote this way and here's why, than to try to come up with rebuttals to try to make it seem like it's this. And really, when you apply that same principle of law in any other place, it doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing about it. So we want to make sure that we keep that mindset and don't, be that. But real quick, we want to go around. So we got Duke, and I want to go around to get Doug and Chris White comments, and then we're going to let y'all get out of here so we can close up for tonight.
I just want to remind everybody, and it goes back to what Shep said. This is very important that even though we live in this country, I don't see it just as separation of church and state, is that we are ambassadors of the kingdom of God, right? And that's a sovereignty, which means in our patriotic mindsets of America, this shows you that it don't really mix well, the divine, the divine and our physical reality or whatever. Because even when I look at God trying to warn the people, right? You don't want a king like everybody else. He laid out what was going to happen, which we're seeing the results till this day of. When you look at King Solomon, and this is where we can't get all sensitive. We had a king that we all agree in and inspired by the Bible, who told a woman told a servant, a soldier, to cut a baby in half, and yet we draw from that and call it wisdom. So we have to look out for that moral hypocrisy that exists when we study in the scripture where a king actually said, cut a baby in half and split it in two and give it to the children. And we see it as wisdom. You know what I mean? Like we gotta, if we're gonna stomach through this thing, we gotta understand that we're stomaching through how difficult it is to be human and manage human culture. We have David, King David, who killed a man to cover up the fact that he slept with someone's wife. We got Abraham, who's gonna kill his own son to prove to God. So, you know, we have a sovereign God who maneuvers through mankind in some weird ways that we always don't have to agree with. But we better be on his side. We better be on his side, because ultimately, when you look at the results of everything, you know, the woman jumps out. Like, God has a way of piercing hearts that governments will never be able to pierce. Governments will never be, because all governments know how to do is oppress and cause rebellion. And we got to understand that that's not how that pendulum swings. Oppression leads to rebellion. It never leads to balance. Who brings the balance? God. He said, if my people, and some people tell me I'm constantly bringing this into the political conversations, and I am. It's because God said, if my people humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, I will heal their land. And so we asking governments to do something that only God can do. And we don't even realize this is above our blackness, our maleness, our whiteness, our Republican. We got to get back to saying, hey, how much sin have we normalized and culturalized? And as believers, we got to disconnect from agreeing with that, because as long as we agree with that, the curse is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We're going to fight against each other more and more and more. We need to be able to exist on the side of the kingdom of God, no matter how they package sin, is still sin.
Appreciate you, Duke. Thank you so much for that. And as we pass it on, so we got Doug left and we also got Chris left. And again, thank y'all so much for watching. And I want y'all to give a digital applause for these men having their time, because I love it that we have men up here talking about real important issues, because that's a dynamic that's not even visibly seen in our Black entertainment nowadays. So I'm just thankful, just even for the optics of tonight. You know what I'm saying? For one, that in and of itself, you know what I'm saying, is a blessing. And another rebuttal, and Doug and Chris, whoever want to go first if it can, and I'm going to toss it to you all as I also dismantle another rebuttal that seems nice. It seems like it's nice, but when you think about it, does it really make sense? It don't, because if it's a good principle, it have to work both ways. So when people say you got to realize you can't legislate morality, that doesn't make sense, because our whole government, that's what it's trying to do. And get this, you're okay with it. So murder is a morality issue. This is why you want people to be penalized for the morality of not being able to walk up and just kill somebody that they're mad at. That's legislating morality. The reason why you punish people for you don't want nobody just to be able to break into your house and steal something that you work hard for without them being punished by law from it, do you? Well, guess what? That is a morality issue that is governed by law. Remember what the Bible says. It says law and government comes from who? It comes from above. It comes from God, and he is the one that could use it. So we got to make sure, because we reach, and it only sounds good for one side of the argument when you understand that don't really make sense when you apply it everywhere else. Therefore, mean it can't be a good law or principle to go by. So we want to remember that too. But yeah, either Doug or Chris, y'all close arguments.
All right, we'll get a last word to Chris, because we have cut him off a little bit tonight. But I'm gonna try to hit something real quick. The title tonight was Trump Project and the Election. Project 2025 and the election. And I want to kind of hit something real quick, and that's, I'm gonna say, the number 27. The number 27 doesn't mean much to us, but it should. And the reason I say that is because the election coming up, most of us, Democrat, Republican, Christian, non-Christian, most of us for the last 3 or 4 elections have said, why in the world is this the choice I got? And most of us say, I'm voting for the lesser of two evils. Then we begin to defend that lesser evil really, really strongly. But here's the fact. We could stop this if we would get involved at the primaries. We don't get involved at the primaries.
Wow.
That's when we have 7 or 8 people running on the Republican side, 7 or 8 people running on the Democratic side. But guess what?
That's a good point.
North Carolina this past time, 27% of the people showed up for the primary. All right. General election is going to be over 60%. When Obama's last election, it was 80% showing up for the general with only 2 people, but less than a quarter of the population deciding it. Now, here's the crazy thing, though. If you come to a city like Greensboro, where we live, if the churches had ever united and said, this is who we want on city council, this is who we're voting for, this is who we want as county commissioner, if only a quarter of the people are voting, and y'all know most cities got more than 25% of the people going to church, every city in America would have the church deciding who's on city council, who's on county commissioner. But we don't do it. And now we're sitting here, we're arguing about Trump, we're arguing about Biden and Kamala, and we controlled this thing the whole time. We just never did it. So, my admonition to you is this: understand that, Shep, you brought up Agenda 47, that is coming. But here's the real thing. A lot of times in media, what we say in politics are either scare them or make them really, really happy. Agenda 47, most of it cannot happen. Okay,
Right.
All the stuff with law enforcement and all of that. Law enforcement is not federal; it's always local. What federal gets to do is say, we're going to give you this part of your budget, and then we can make some things. Hey, if you want this part of your budget, we'll give it to you. Same thing with education. Education is local. So if you're sitting here fighting about Trump and fighting about, we can go all the way back to No Child Left Behind and all of that. You're fighting about all of that, but a decision was made at your local board of education, and they had some
That's
direction
right.
from the state. So if you pay more attention to who's running for the state, who's running for city council and county commissioner, you're gonna do yourself a lot better than working on these guys. And we sitting there arguing about them forever. We don't know none of them, and they don't know us. But I can get to know the local person on the board of education. I can sit down and probably have lunch with them. So we have power, we're not using it. And that's probably
That's
one
good.
of the things that
That's
the church and the Black community need to realize and do. Earlier, I said something, we've been convinced we're victims. I'm just showing you right now by the numbers, it's all in our hands. We've never been victims, we've just been inactive.
That's
I'll
good, though.
Oh, we
That's
never
good.
been victims. We just been
That's
inactive.
good, though.
Now you got to give him now y'all about Robert. I don't buy. Listen, y'all gonna get too many offers out of me tonight. Now you know what I'm saying. But yeah, look, Chris, we're gonna give you the word, and then I have the final word, man. So come on, yeah, and that yes, I cut you off tonight once or twice. You cut somebody else off. You cut Doug off, but I cut you off, and I apologize because I'm not above.
You good? You
I'm
good,
not
bro?
apologizing. I have a track record of apologizing when you know what I'm saying. I do that because that's
No,
a
no.
reality. That's a part of being a
Hey.
lover of the truth. You got to side with it even when it steps on your toes. But
Hey, man, good
Hey,
content. Good content.
Hey, we never been victims, but what?
We've been inactive. We've been inactive.
Hey,
that's a t-shirt, ain't Shep? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
man,
Yes, sir.
we might have to have 6 parts to this show, man. But first of all, man, I want to thank all the brothers who came on tonight. Brother Doug, pleasure meeting you. Andrew, always. Shep, you know how we get down.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my thought is just kind of like piggybacking off of what Doug said, getting back to kind of like what the topic was on the flyer. I just want to encourage people to do your research. You know what I'm saying? Don't be ignorant. Don't be swayed one way to the left or the right by just what other people say. Just like when you go to church, don't just take what the pastor say as the gospel. You know what I'm saying? Read for yourself, study for yourself, but do not take the election and things going on lightly, and don't take an attitude of I'm not going to vote or I'm not going to get involved because whatever going to happen is going to happen. Because I don't think you could take that approach, because there are things that are going to affect you, and not only you, that's going to affect the generations to come. So we have to educate ourselves and hopefully vote. If you choose not to vote, that's your option too. But if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain when things are not going your way. If you do your research and you vote, you know what I'm saying, whichever way you vote. I believe that Jesus is not a Republican or a Democrat. I believe that we will all, you know what I'm saying, have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And I also believe that the heart of the king is in the Lord's hand, and he turn it whatever way he like. So no matter who is in authority, we have to pray for those in authority. And that's why the Bible said that we'll live a peaceable life. But right now, with this election, you do have power to affect things, because elections do have consequences, and people in political positions will make decisions that will affect you in some way, whether it's your finances, whether it's what's going on in the schools and the churches or whatever. So do your research, pray, seek God, and vote.
Amen. We thank y'all so much tonight. And I'm a personal testimony that I say this because it was a private conversation that I probably would have stood by publicly, but I never would have said publicly. And this happened some time ago, actually back when the last election happened. I said, you know what? I was talking with a good friend of mine, and we do some ministry together. They're real sharp. And I was like, bro, I'm like, listen, I don't see how any Christian could vote Democrat. I still don't. But my sentiments was that, but here's why I'm saying it. It is because when I knew that we was talking about this topic, here's one of the things I said, and I actually talked about like Chris White to like my wife and to like some other folks in a positive way. And this is what I said to myself. I said, you know what? I said, because I've seen his track record, we have ministered together, and I know he has conservative Christian views. I know he hates what God hates, and he likes what the devil hates. I know that because the issues that I have a problem with that we will support in voting, we both ministered on. So I know that. So he was one of the first ones personally that at least made me reconsider that there could be some strong Christians that could possibly vote. I would disagree on the reasons why, and I would even still say, maybe he's a strong Christian, you're just misguided in this area, and we all have the right to do that. But me knowing Chris and knowing how we have ministered together over the past 2-3 months, at least made me put a personal reality to how someone could still love what God loves and maybe still go that way. So, and the reason why I brought it up is because I want to let y'all know that not only let that be an example, let it, again, why I started off the night with, guess what? I don't know if y'all ever been in the real barber shop, at least a black one. I don't know how the white ones do because I ain't had no long white hair, but I know how the black ones do. And you know how we get down, and you know how we get down on the basketball court, and to leave there like it's nothing. That's what I know I'm pretty much certain we're leaving here there. But for the people on the sidelines, you got to realize everybody on this panel, we know each other. We have been before the show, and we will after the show. But whatever has been presented tonight, we want you to let you keep that on the forefront of the mind that, listen, if anything else, it is not against the law to have the hard conversation. Because here's one of the biggest tricks of the enemy. I'ma just shut my mouth to keep the peace. Understand this. Sometimes keeping the peace raises the biggest hell. And I want us to keep that in mind, because you can think back to grandmama and your family cookout, your family dinner. Y'all always needed to address that thing with your uncle or with your cousin. But every time it's time to bring it up, grandmama be like, not now, baby, not now. And she's been saying not now for 10 and 20 and 15 years. Well, when is not now going to turn into right now? It never will, and therefore we enable it. Please have courage enough to have the hard conversation, and don't let the fear of it may go south stop you from having it. Because guess what? It didn't stop Jesus from going to the cross for us. It didn't stop Paul. It didn't stop the Hebrew boys. I just did a sermon this Sunday on the Hebrew boys. It didn't stop them from going into the fiery furnace when they know saying something would get them there. They still said it and got it anyway. So I hope that has been exemplified over the show. I hope y'all got some great information and got a good optics that we have some strong men on the show doing that. That's one thing that I like about Critical Dialogue. It doesn't lack what we have a lack of seeing out in our communities, and that is strong black men, because then when we do see them, they try to effeminize them. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one thing that is a privilege about Critical Dialogue. Shout out to our partner who's not here tonight, Ronald Smith. This is what he would have made the show look a lot better than what I did. Chris White can attest to that. But we thank y'all so much for your time.
You did a good job, bro. You did a good job.
Appreciate y'all for y'all. Thank y'all so much for y'all time tonight. And and tell your families that we are appreciative of that. So we're going to be out here for now, man. Y'all join us because we are here every Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, talking about something. Hey, Brother Shepherd, we definitely going to connect.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, man. I didn't realize you was watching because it wasn't glitching the system last week.
Man, y'all, I love this, man. I love
Thank
it.
you for saying what you're saying about critical dialogue. It really means a lot.
Yes, sir.
And Doug, I'm gonna have to pay you to come back because I know the mantle that you. But tell Christine and the family we said hello. So we out
got
here, you guys. Thank y'all so much.
Amen.
Salute.